White genocide seems to be the hot topic right now. So you recently had the visit at the White House from the South African president. President Donald Trump had a video that he wanted to show the South African president. And of course, you have the left-wing media, the Democratic media, I like to call them, calling this an ambush. I mean, you're seeing video after video after video, and that is what they're saying. President Trump ambushes. President Trump ambushes South African president.
To the dramatic scene in the Oval Office today, the tense confrontation, President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
Up next, another Oval Office meltdown, President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
President Trump is being accused of conducting something of a diplomatic ambush of South Africa's president in the Oval Office.
To be with you, I'm Katie Tur. President Trump orchestrated another Oval Office ambush today.
Today, Donald Trump meeting with the president of South Africa and attempting to ambush and humiliate that leader.
Zelensky territory, where essentially he was a bit ambushed inside the Oval Office.
Felt like an ambush in there, kind of like the President Zelensky meeting in the Oval Office.
This was an ambush. It was orchestrated.
Cyril Ramaphosa brought his best diplomatic self to this meeting, but nothing could have prepared him for this multimedia ambush.
What started as, to some degree, an ambush.
Well, Katie, I mean, it was an ambush.
Ambush.
Ambushed. Ambush.
An ambush.
Ambushing.
Ambushed inside the Oval Office.
Okay. So I want to go to CNN right now. They're actually talking about this as well. And then after that, I want to go into another video that shows the perspective of white South Africans that actually talk about this subject. So let's take a quick look, man, at what's going on here. White genocide and supposedly white genocide in South Africa.
An Oval Office ambush. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa thought he was joining President Trump at the White House to reset relations. Instead, he was accused of allowing, quote, genocide of white South African farmers to happen under his watch. Watch this.
We have thousands of stories talking about it. Sure. And we have documentaries, we have news stories. Excuse me, turn the lights down. Turn the lights down and just put this on. It's right behind you. Johan.
There's nothing this parliament can do. With or without you, people are going to occupy land.
The evidence that Trump is showing there with the press in the room has been debunked. There is nothing substantive to these claims that there is a genocide happening in South Africa. But that still didn't stop the White House from fast-tracking the refugee status of 59 white South Africans just last week. Now, here are the actual facts around this.
Hey, real quick. So this is where this all comes from. So you have 59 white South Africans that are refugees that came over to America because they are in fear of their life. So you have Abby Phillips and the rest of legacy media, left-leaning, Democratic-leaning media saying that this has been all debunked. This is not true, right? Like Abby Phillips and myself, I'm sure both of us have never been to South Africa. We probably both have never been on the ground to actually investigate this. So we have to go off of information that's provided for us, right? So this to me is just anti-Trump. Anti-Trump. You know damn well if this was brought up by Biden or Kamala Harris or President Barack Obama, there would be no pushback. There would not be a pushback here. It would be, the headline would be different. They would champion Biden or Kamala Harris or Barack Obama for bringing attention to this atrocity.
In the last 9 months of 2024, there were more than 19,000 murders in South Africa. Only 36 happened on farms, and only 7 of the victims were farmers. How many of them were white? We don't know, because official data is not broken down by race. Now, even a State Department report in Trump's first term addressed
the official data is not broken down by race. I wonder why.
The claims of race-motivated attacks on white farmers. That same report goes on to say that those attacks and murders increased in line with the overall rise in violent crime in the country. Still, Trump accused the South African president of doing nothing to stop his unsubstantiated claim of genocide.
But you do allow them to take land.
No.
You do allow them to take land.
Nobody can
and
take
then when
land.
they take the land, they kill the white farmer. And when they kill the white farmer, nothing happens to them.
No, there is
nothing happens.
There is criminality in our country. People who do get killed, unfortunately, through criminal activity, are not only white people. Majority of them are black people. And we have now
The
been
farmers are
utilized.
black. The farmers are not black.
We
I don't
now-
say that's good or bad, but the farmers are not black.
Joining us in our fifth seat at the table is Elise Labott. She is the Edward R. Murrow Press Fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations and host of Cosmopolitics on Substack. And you can see there why President Ramaphosa was a negotiator for the anti-apartheid government because he had extraordinary patience in trying to explain to Trump that what he is claiming there in the Oval Office for the world to see is just not true.
That's right. And he also, brought some props with him. He brought some South African golfers, a coffee table book. He knows that, he needs to kind of, in this feudal system, bring gifts to President Trump. It wasn't enough to stop that ambush, but he tried to, correct the facts, let him know that the majority, and there is a lot of crime in South Africa, the majority is not against whites, it's against blacks. The majority is not against farmers, as you said in the intro. President Trump didn't want to hear any of it. It wasn't till one of the golfers and one of the white billionaires that he brought with him kind of said, look, President Trump, this is what's going on. And I think that's when, then there was a joke about the jet, which we'll talk about later. But that's when I think the meeting kind of turned and the tensions were lowered a little bit.
This is straight out of the conspiracy land of the far right. And it
Conspiracy land. We have been right. Conspiracy theorists have been right.
is not based in fact. And it's amazing that this has actually become the foreign policy of the United States based on just straight up. I mean, we have the numbers. It is completely unsubstantiated. I mean, Scott,
You're saying it's not true that some white farmers have been murdered?
No, it's not true that there is a genocide against white
Okay,
farmers.
whatever you call it, have white farmers been murdered?
Actually, how many
have violence been committed against white farmers?
How many white farmers? Hold on a second. How many white farmers have been murdered in
I don't
South
know.
Africa?
Several. I mean, they asked.
No. How many?
I don't know. Several.
I know why you don't know. Because those numbers don't exist broken down by race.
I mean,
how
I
many
know
black,
this. I wouldn't trust the
how
South
many black
African government
farmers,
to tell me. I know that.
How many black
Me
farmers
neither.
have been murdered in South Africa?
Look, you guys are so triggered over 59 people.
No. I'm not.
After we left, 20 million people in the country. I don't know why you're so
Haven't even
triggered
brought
over
up the people, the white people that Trump picked
Facts.
out because they were white and told them they could come to the country.
How much racial killing are you going to condone?
There are 19,000 murders in South Africa. 36 were on farms. 7 of the farmers were victims. Okay, this is according to the South African police.
And you think the South African government is a
The
credible
other
source?
29, hold on a second. The 29 victims who were included in the farm killings were farm employees who tend to be black. So the vast majority of people killed on farms in South Africa are black. Where is the concern about them?
The concern is that there are white farmers who have had violence committed against them, and they're being threatened. They're being threatened every single day. There's 59 people,
hold on a second.
and you're triggered about 59 people, and I don't know why.
I haven't mentioned anything about.
You notice Abby Phillips, she loves to interrupt. That's a tactic that they all use, man. They love to interrupt. They ask you a question, you try to get your thoughts out, and they interrupt you. It's like, okay, well, we want to go and say whatever we want to say. Like, Abby Phillips goes and she says everything at the beginning of the show. She's able to get this information out. That's the reason why you have a panel. You have the panel to get their opinions on things. Let Scott talk. I mean, you know what the problem is? Scott Jennings makes way too much sense.
About 59
to
people.
substantiate
Why are you
being
only
targeted.
concerned about white people?
I'm only concerned about this story because these 59 people asked for status. They're getting status, and now everybody's freaking out
They
about
didn't
it.
ask for anything.
There
Actually.
is no evidence that white people have been targeted. Some white people in the larger issue of farmers, in the larger issue of violence, have been part of this violence. But there
then why
is
are they
no,
trying to get out? Why are they? If there's no,
Scott,
why are they trying to leave?
The majority of
have you seen the videos of the people saying "kill the white farmers"?
Afrikaners do not want.
What do you
to
think
leave.
the phrase "kill the white farmers" means?
Yeah, that's a phrase that the ANC. That was a phrase that was against the anti-apartheid movement. But the ANC, who's ruling the government, the president's government, has disavowed that phrase, has disavowed it in songs, and there's no evidence that white people are being targeted. And the majority.
But the thing is that gentleman is the opposition of the current South African president, and he's part of parliament. So he is part of their government, which is crazy, because if this was flipped, like I said, if this was a Democratic president bringing attention to this for the world to see, these people would have the opposite argument. They would be totally for it and say, you know what, this right here is a problem, da 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 da. Like I said, if it was Kamala Harris or Biden bringing this situation to the world, they would be totally for it, man. They would be totally backing it. It is all anti-Trump. It is definitely Trump derangement syndrome for sure.
Majority of Afrikaners do not want to leave.
They're not a part of the government, Scott. Right. You're taking a fringe movement and you're trying to make it a characteristic.
So it is the height of racism. It is the height of racism to say that white people have to be exempted from all violence in any society, and that is what is being said here. If we cannot say, there is no white genocide happening, there is no farm genocide happening, and the argument is some white people have been killed, even though 27,000 murders happened in that country. What are we saying? If anybody of one racial group is murdered, then that constitutes a refugee status for that particular group.
When the president has also.
Well, how come it's not broken down by race? Abby Phillip said that earlier. How come it's not broken down by race? They're just giving you these totals, but it doesn't break it down by race. I wonder why that is.
It's also ended the refugee program.
Yes,
for all other people in actual war. There is actual war.
No, I don't understand.
I'm not triggered.
You want them to stay, and I guess you want them to have violence committed against them. Does that make you happy?
Go ahead and have comments, and then I'll let Sherman.
Violence against all people is wrong.
I agree with you.
Including the white farmers, but also including the black people that live in Africa. There are 1.5 billion people that live in the continent of Africa.
Like violence of any kind.
There are 1.5 billion people that live in Africa.
Okay.
There are 63 million people that live in South Africa. Mm-hmm. There were 59 people that were extracted out of a continent of 1.5 billion people and brought to our country. And what color were those people? White.
So?
And where were there other places where genocide is happening in the continent? Where 1.5 billion. I'm not against it. I'm not against it. I want to know. No. I want you to have a complete. I want you to have. I can have a complete thought. I want you to have a complete thought.
My thought is,
you are okay.
These people are under threat, and now they're coming here, and you're enraged that they're not still under threat.
Can you say that in addition to the 7 potential white farmers that were murdered, the 18,982,000 black folks that were murdered in the country, that's a problem too?
Yes, all violence is a problem.
Yes, and maybe perhaps
the government's policies are targeting these particular people with land confiscation, and they're being targeted with violence.
That's incorrect. There have been no farms taken from any white people yet.
Yeah.
Yes.
How
but
so?
the laws, do the laws not allow it?
There is a law, but it hasn't been.
There is a law, but
no,
they're being targeted.
Kind of like the Constitution.
Hold on, guys. I think that
they're threatening them.
Hold on. A lot is being said right now, including many things that are not true.
What's not true?
So the land. Let's talk about the land for a second.
It's the law.
Scott, just 1 second. Let's talk about the land. The land. Hold on a second. Hold on. Let's talk about the land. I'm going to take this one at a time because I think it's really important. 81% of the land, the vast majority, 96% of the private land in South Africa is owned by white people, despite black people being the vast majority of the population, 81%. The president of South Africa pointed this out today, that the United States has eminent domain laws that allows the state to seize land
on the basis
from
of race?
people. From people if they want to. And here's what the New York Times writes about what the Trump administration did in its first term. The administration filed more than 110 lawsuits against landowners in Texas as it sought to secure space for the border wall, turning to eminent domain, even though many conservatives view it as an excess of government power that violates.
So, I don't know if it's white genocide. But you know something, it looks like that there is some type of racism towards these people, and these people are being unalived because of what? Because they're white and they own farms. I mean, it looks like it to me. Of course, anything that President Trump brings to light, or anything that President Trump does, that's a victory, it's a win, anything, they're going to put, there's always going to be this negative pushback from the other side. And you see it with the media, and they jumped all over it and said President Trump ambushed the South African president, instead of saying, hey, you know something, this is an atrocity. These people here are being murdered because, you know, and apparently it looks like it's because of the color of their skin, they're farm owners. So, you know something, why don't we take a look at a video of people that actually live in this country, people that are on the ground that are experiencing this racism towards them. Why don't we go ahead and take a look at these people? Let's take a look at this next video.
White farms are being robbed and farmers murdered.
Not only do they kill, but the way they kill, they torture you.
Their victims claim that behind the farm attacks is racial hatred, stirred up by politicians.
We've been murdered for some time now. They are coming to take the land as well. And I think that's very hard to conclude that there's not a racist motive.
Shoot to kill!
This is hate. This is political hate.
An hour's drive southwest of Muldersdrift, on the maize fields around Fockville, on May the 13th this year, nobody was scared away, and nobody's life was saved. "78-year-old Fani Engelbrecht didn't have time to call for help. When Fani and his wife Colleen didn't show up for Mother's Day lunch, his son Johan strolled 300 meters up the track to his parents' house to investigate.
When I came here, my dad's vehicle was standing here, like he was already back from church, nothing unusual. And I went into the house. As I entered into the wall here, there was a lot of blood lying on the floor here. And I immediately realized that something is wrong. This is the door that actually broke down to get to a study. And I found them lying there, tied together, next to each other.
Right here, tied together?
Yeah, they were tied. My dad was lying on his back. My mother was lying face down, hands tied behind her back. My dad had a big gaping hole like the size of a golf ball in his throat. There was a pool of blood here all over.
Wow.
When I couldn't feel a pulse, their throats were slit. They were tortured here. I found a iron cord around my mother's neck. She was obviously, they tortured her. My dad always said, it's not if, it's when.
Did he?
Yeah. He knew it's coming. We all know it's coming. It's just a question of when.
I think it's interesting that you have so much pushback by Democratic media here about this whole situation that's happening in South Africa, because you have testimony from people that are on the ground. These are people that are actually from there, and they're saying, hey, you know, we're farmers. We own the land. We are white, and people are killing us. These people are giving their testimony of what's happening. And the interesting part is you're seeing these videos. This is the video that came to light during the visit of the South African president to the White House. And this video shows the opposition leader that's chanting a song that is anti-white. And it says, you know, shoot to kill the farmer. I guess that's the name of it, right? And these people are, you want to talk about hate speech? This is hate speech. And this guy is galvanizing the people to have a racist hate towards white people. Call it for what it is, man. don't push back against it just because President Trump is bringing this to light. Okay, I think it's ridiculous, man. It's an issue. It's definitely a humanitarian issue, and it's something that needs to be brought to light, man. So I don't know. Let's continue with this man's testimony.
Build a prison around your house, but at some point you have to leave that prison and go out and farm, and that's where they get you.
In Australia, a double murder on a farm would be headline news for days. Not in South Africa. It's just too common an event.
Too common of an event.
My one neighbor, Honest Kitching, and his wife, they were murdered about 6 months ago. Then there's Miss Simpson, Nikki Simpson. She was tortured, drilled through her knees and feet. Then there's Piet Higu, also a neighbor not far from here. He was shot. Carl Hall was shot. So in the last 10, 20 years in this area, I can name 20, 30 attacks, murders on farmers.
Unbelievable.
Plaasmoeder is Afrikaans for farm murders. On a hillside in Limpopo province, a private landowner has planted more than 2,000 crosses.
More than 2,000 crosses.
Each one represents an individual murdered in a farm attack since 1994. 75 more crosses were added last year.
There's enough evidence that racism plays a big role, and there's enough evidence that political influences play a big role. There are reported cases where the murderers themselves have said that they were influenced by politics in the committing of these crimes. And secondly, even more concerning than that, is the political climate in South Africa.
Farmers like Johan Engelbrecht say the mere threat of expropriation has dramatically affected the market for private land. I mean, if you wanted to sell this farm now, would you get a good price for it?
Nothing. It's zero. It's worth zero.
Already?
We had several auctions in the last 2-3 weeks cancelled because there was no people interested in buying land.
They're afraid.
Why will you buy a farm and tomorrow the government's going to take it?
Yeah.
And who is going to buy a farm if living there endangers their lives?
Facts.
But the threat to farmers' lives is as great as ever. In the brief time we spent in South Africa, 7 people were murdered in farm attacks.
Wow.
Golden Ntika. He says he knows several gang members who've taken part in farm attacks.
Most often those crimes, they don't just end up being clean crimes. They end up killing the person as well.
Why?
So a past ideology of saying, no, the farmers took our land for free, and when they go there, they take out the anger on them.
So you think there is a racial...
There is that racial element in it as well. It's a thing of the past that was there, and is still continuing in a form of robberies.
There you go. You have a South African gentleman right there saying that there is a racial element to it because of things that happened in the past, apartheid that happened in the past. So these people are suffering this is horrible fate. To me, if the government can take the property, I mean, I don't think it's right, but I would much rather for them to take the property than people come and kill these people. For what? You're killing people because of an ideology. You don't feel that these people deserve the land, and so we're going to go ahead and not only take it, but we're going to torture you and kill you.